Okay, dear participants, dear scholars, on behalf of the organizing committee, I welcome you to the 7th edition of the Nanosafety Training School, from basic science to risk governance. This year, we celebrate the 10th anniversary of the school. It has been traditionally hosted in Venice, Italy. In fact, the school was founded 11 years ago by 4 professors, Antonio Marcumini, Lang Tran, Vicky Stone, and Bengt Fadel. I joined 1 year later, and since then we had 6 more editions of the school. I must say that this school has become one of the most distinctive events in the nanosafety community, and I'm really proud to be part of it. This year we're planning to have the school as a hybrid event physically taking place on the San Servolo Island in Venice. But unfortunately, due to the pandemic and some restrictions imposed by the Italian government, we were forced to change its format from a face-to-face to a virtual event. So the bad news is that this year we won't be able to proceed with our social program, including the Venetian Masquerade Ball that we were planning to host in order to celebrate the 10th anniversary of the school. But we decided to move this celebration to next year when COVID is gone, and we'll be happy to welcome you all in Venice again next year. The next slide, please. This year, the school is supported by several important European research projects, and I really want to express our gratitude to these projects, not only for providing financial support, but mostly for sharing the enormous knowledge they have generated. In fact, most of the lectures and training sessions planned during the school are based on results of these projects. This is especially valid for projects that have been active for some years and are about to finish soon, such as Biorima, Gracious, and Patrols. But very interesting results and cutting-edge ideas will be presented also from ongoing and recently started projects such as NanoInformaTIX, Go for Nano, NanoRIGO, RiskGONE, Sunshine, Harmless, Sabina, and as by D Nano. These projects have generated substantial results that will be disseminated to all of you during the school. Of course, this is all under the umbrella of the European Nanosafety Cluster, which has endorsed the school and actively contributed to it. Next slide, please. The main objective of the school is to transfer scientific knowledge from the projects that I just mentioned to support risk governance and safe and sustainable by design of nano and biotechnologies used in consumer products and medical applications. The school is very interdisciplinary, and the lectures focus on emerging trends in the environmental health and safety research area. Next slide, please. I'm glad to confirm that we have more than 170 registered participants to the school from several key stakeholder groups. We have participants from industry, from academia, regulation, but also the standardization community. So we expect very interesting discussions in the interactive sessions of the school, and we hope that the knowledge shared will have some real impact. Next slide, please. I would like to say special thanks to our sponsors for their financial support for the school. They are the company Green Decision, the Institute of Occupational Medicine, the Orders Group, Warren Hub, BioNanoNet, NC3RS, Aarhus University, RIVM, and NUO. With this, I would like to invite Suzanne to introduce the agenda of the school. And Stella will tell us what we can expect in the next days. Thank you for your attention.
Yes, great, Daniel. Many thanks for the introduction. So I will quickly introduce the school program. I guess it's nothing new. You're all well aware that our school runs for this whole week until Friday. And every afternoon we have 1 or 2 90-minute sessions addressing different topics. And between these sessions, we have a 1-hour break where you can have yourself a coffee or something else to refresh, and where we also invite you and all participants to join the virtual networking. So we did set up this networking hub where you can engage with all other participants and also the speakers, etc. One special announcement today. So this session on Safe by Design and Sustainability Forum will be very interactive. And due to this interactive setting, we can only have 40 people participating in this role play. So these 40 seats will be opened on a first come, first served basis. So we will send out a mail to all registrants where you can sign up for this role play, and we will confirm these first 40 registrants. And of course, all other participants can make use of the networking hub while this specific role play takes place. Next slide, please. Yes, you see here all speakers of the whole school listed. So we managed to get really excellent speakers from different countries and participating in many different projects. And I want to take the opportunity already now to really thank all speakers for their commitment and also for their flexibility to transfer also their training to this fully virtual setting now. So many, many thanks, and I hand over to Stella.
Thank you very much, Suzanne. Before we move on to the actual schools, I would like to briefly introduce a few housekeeping rules for how this is going to work. As you all know, this is a live streaming, and we could always expect some technical issues, which we has already experienced. So we should be prepared about that. But for that, please bear in mind that we have an excellent team of people who is there to give you live support via the specific button in the platform, and also they're open, they're available to communicate with you via the email address, which is listed at the end of this slide. I would like to repeat here also the information that you have already received from an email that for a more stable connection, you could use the Google Chrome facility. And as you know, this is a live event. Despite our online format of the school, we have also tried to make the school as interactive as possible. And different sessions will have different formats, so please make sure that you're following the instructions at the beginning of each session. As a general rule, during presentations and keynote speeches, you will have the chance to post your questions or general comments. If you would like to your questions to be answered during the live Q&A session, please use the live Q&A facility on the platform. Then if you, for more informal comments, you can use the discussion forum. Then we would also have some live interactive sessions. And for this, you should just follow the instructions which are given to you by your instructors at the beginning of the sessions. As mentioned by Susan, as we are trying to make the experience as close as possible to our on-site events, we have developed a networking area which can be used during the dedicated coffee breaks, which you just saw in the agenda, but also they will be open throughout the whole duration of the school. You can use the area to have live chats, calls, and also schedule meetings. As I mentioned here, if you experience some issues, use the live support. And then this is a quick reminder that the presentations of the school would be available to view on demand 1 month after the event. And with this, I would like to wish you a very enjoyable and pleasant experience despite this online settings, and hope to see you again in future in beautiful Venice. And with this, I would like to give the floor to our keynote speakers. We have Georgios Katalangeranakis, who is a good friend of ours and a former European Commission project officer, who is going to give us a short overview of how the nanosafety research has been progressing over the last 16 years. Followed by Steffi Friedrichs, who is going to talk to us about some concepts of sustainable nanofabrication. Now, I would like to give the floor to Georgios.
Thank you for inviting me. It's really a great pleasure to see so many friends, so many names that I have worked with. I have chosen the title 11 years of school and 16 years of nanosafety research, European Union nanosafety research. It's a bit odd, but the pandemic leaves a scar in the school. I hope that it will not be too tough, and I hope that next year we will be good, it will be okay for face-to-face meeting, because after all, projects come and go, but human contact and scientific friendships are most important. And I can assure you that it is those latter that stay in memory. Research results come and go, and they are soon forgotten. They stay in accomplished knowledge. New things come, but yeah, human contacts stay. So 11 years, therefore, so 11 years, we need to count another 5 of research, very tough research work. And if you count another 5 years of concerns, but not really research, then we are talking about a history in this particular domain of about 20 years. It's long time. It's long time, not because it's 20 years, but because things in technology and the market move very, very, very fast. But before I go into somehow a review, critical review of what has happened and what the school has achieved, let me make some preliminary remarks. It seems all evident to us today. It's given. We take it for granted, but it has not always been like that. Safety itself is a relatively new concept of mankind. I mean, the first safety regulation is 1842. It's not so far away, it's just 6 generations. So it's the grandmother of the grandmother of the grandmother, that's all. And it concerned the ban of the work underground in night shifts for pregnant women and girls below 12 years of age. So no doubt we have marked a very, very big progress since then. And other concepts like employer's responsibility, this is a concept that is even younger. I mean, the first one dates from 1911, so a little bit more than a century. So safety is something new and is in full progress. But why the EU? Are we talking as EU? Well, it's a matter of fact that maybe since 1970, I mean, for the coal and mining in the coal and steel industry, it dates from the 50s. But since then, more and more domains rely to the European Union, European Community, for some years, for making the safety action, be it for consumer, be it for environment, be it for work safety or food. So, as a matter of fact, well, there are few parts, few sectors that do not really go under this scheme. I can think of earthquake engineering, which is still national. I mean, we have had an effort 20 years ago, around 2000, to get it European. It did not succeed. Some others succeeded or went for a while, like genetic modified organisms, but then they returned to the national jurisdiction. So it's an evolving process, the EU, but together with the United States, we have two separate jurisdictions, two separate production systems of safety, if you like. And they are driving the global effort. Where we are now, I can summarize it in two or three main points. First is that it's an evolving target. So the safety goals become higher and higher. So don't launch research to achieve the targets of today, because your research, when it is finished, will be already outdated. So go for at least 10, 15 years ahead. Why is this happening? I will not develop it now, but it's an indication that our well-being is getting higher. And as the value of human life increases, then safety targets, of course, go higher, but that's a different story. The second point is that all this is now science-based. We all agree that we need thorough scientific knowledge supported by data, big data, collected from all over the place of the living kingdom and the environment, of course, including plants. So we all agree that this is science-based. And third point is that it becomes too big to be solved on a case-by-case basis like it was in the past. So it has to go with action. And the action is that we create something to fit for a considerable period of time to fit the safety requirements. In other words, we design things to be safe as we design them to be productive or economically productive, then they ought to be safe. I pass now to the main subject after these preliminary remarks. Why nano? Why nano needed a separate action? So the 20 years ago, the new technology came forward, and I can refer to a discussion, a hypothetical discussion, but at the end it was not so hypothetical. That we don't really need research. I mean, if we develop materials and they come out to be dangerous, harmful, then we just ban them. But I mean, the answer to that is that you wait for the damage, you wait for the first victims of the technology. Well, no, and the discussion hypothetically could go further with the answer terrifying us, but this is what we have always done. And in some areas, like chemicals, we still do that. So we see the damage and then we act. But for a new technology, which has not been established yet, this is a dead end. I mean, it's a showstopper. So things can stop sometimes unexpectedly. Something happens in food safety or in cosmetics, and has impact on medicine or whatever. So, or something happening in painting materials, and conclusions are taken about toothpaste. So it's a showstopper. The other thing is that new technology coming forward, not established review mechanisms. So there is a lot of false information. There is a lot of garbage around that needs clean up. It's not so easy. So the decision was then taken to move forward seriously about that, and was not in the nanotechnology unit then. So about 5 years passed with some work, which is the initial recognition of the field, and things were much similar to the United States, or things in the United States followed more or less similar path. And in 2009, I moved into the nanotechnology unit and took up the nanosafety domain, clear cut. And that was the time, well, for me at least, it was pivotal. I hope it was for the sector too. But what happened at that time? So there has been a policy, but don't imagine that there was member states meetings and so on. No, things were just happening and step by step progressing. So the first element that came forward was that we need one voice. We need the European Union to be taken seriously, and if you talk with so many voices, you're not taken seriously. And one voice. That was easily said, quite difficult to do, but people recognized the idea that this one voice is a must. And I'm talking about one voice, not just talking to each other, but scientific one voice. So results had to be cross-checked, controlled, laboratories streaming their procedures, exchanging their samples, and so on. That's when you start with 2 orders of magnitude difference in the results. The street, the road is clear and difficult and costly. So one voice, point number one. Point number two, this policy and consequently the actions ought to be consistent with itself. First, to be continuous, so there is an element of continuity in it, reassurance that we will still be there, and consistency. So let's analyze this consistency. What was in there? First, it ought to be systemic, so not just investigating hazard toxicology, but also investigating exposure, and then see what to do with it, then proceed with the risk reduction. So the system approach from the recognition of the hazard to the measurement of the hazard, the quantification of it, and the risk reduction was the first element. The second element was the link between the research and the regulatory domain. We cannot tell one story in research and a different story in the regulatory domain. And surely it goes by itself, the market domain. If two different laboratories measure the same thing and they find different results, that's a disaster. And we have seen it also with the pandemic. So by allow me a parenthesis here, the virology domain was one of the most governed. It was impossible to publish something if you were not a certified laboratory. And then the pandemic, we saw the pandemic, whatever came to the press, and the press was willing to publish it without any review. But it's a long, different story. I hope we learn from this. We will surely learn from this pandemic story. The third element of it is that it's a global issue, so we have to go globally. What that means is that the European Union should act with the member states. That's fine, this was easily done. Then it should be more and more present as a group in ISO and the OECD. And third, and maybe most important of all, go with a new, excuse me for this, go with a cooperation as far as possible with the United States of America. What it cost, how big was this? From the European Union, it was something like 25 million euro a year, and if we count everything else, I mean industry expenses and member states expenses, we reach an amount of 100 million euro per year. And the Americans have estimated their spending there at $125 million. So things have progressed for establishing this first part, the research part, and linking it with the regulatory part and advancing to safe by design. So this side was relatively well, I don't say achieved because it's not achieved yet. It will never be achieved. Things will come and need to be dealt with. But where do we need to go from now? What are the elements that have not progressed that far? So the next to stress is the governance issue. So, but it's easily said, the governance not as an act of government, this is politicians' actions, it's not for us. But as I said earlier, these actions are science-based, and we got to get the science right in the first hand. So what are the elements of the risk governance? First, of course, the goals. And as I said earlier, these are progressing goals. We're shooting moving targets. So we have to overshoot. And we have to anticipate, because the damage we have, the victims, in other words, as the situation improves, are scarcer and scarcer. So we don't have information, we don't learn anymore from disasters in this nano domain, but also in other domains. So we have to anticipate the damage, and it's not easy. Once we somehow clarify the goals for each particular domain and particular risk, then the four elements of the governance need to be put in place. First, the information. So know what you do, know what the others do, get the information stored somewhere easily accessible and continuously updated. there, fortunately, the progress in the informatics give us great perspective. Communication, that's more difficult thing. Say what you do right now, in scientific terms again, and what you are going to do next. So exchanging this information between the actors is not so easy because people are conservative in this, they hesitate to open up until they build the confidence that allows them to do that. Third element, the planning. The planning in the past, that means I did this in the past and I got these results. So look back to the past and then try to speculate for the future. If I do this now, that's what I'm going to get in the future. So continuously, this has to be adapted and learned as we progress and the future becomes past. Then we can get it into the lessons learned chapters. Fourth element of the governance is the control to the goal. So are we getting any error? Are we progressing according to what we have expected? Do we learn from others? Can we adapt our previous planning so we get to the goal more easily? In the pandemic, we have seen this relation between the scientists and the decision makers, and sometimes the misunderstandings that have come in this. One thing is sure, when we have the cascade of events that can lead to a system failure, a disaster in other words, then whatever we have taken attention for beforehand, that's what we have. There's nothing else. Be it scientific knowledge, be it materials, be it experts, be it organizational experience, whatever. At the moment that you need to act, the only thing you have available is what you have prepared. And this is a great, great lesson. Closing, I would like to make a couple of projections. I have already repeatedly said that we can learn from others in terms of governance, in terms of safe by design, in terms of quantification of risk, organizational items, organizational, institutionalizing the safety action. But Nano has also made progress. It has advanced a lot into what I said earlier, anticipating the damage. We don't have any nano-safe, nanotechnology victims, hopefully, of course. And can we give this? How did we do that? Can we give this? In particular, there are some domains which are now making very fast progress. One is traditional, is chemicals. But the amount of chemicals coming out per year is 4,000 to 5,000. And there is no way that a straightforward registration and authorization of chemicals, submitting a dossier, getting authorization, as Rich says, can cope with this activity. It's like investigating every single bridge and every single building that you give for use. It's impossible. So Chemicals is my first projection where this knowledge can be helpful. A second domain is biotechnology. And here we see some very strange situations. Some weeks ago was the CEO of a major pharmaceutical company and said, well, we developed the vaccine in 1 week, but it took us 1 year to be able to give the first prick to a human being. So we are advancing in a domain where we need to look both at the science of the thing, even if it is a living thing, a bio, and to the regulatory aspect of it together. So we need to do it beforehand and be ready. A third domain which I can give as perspective is the informatics, or now it's called artificial intelligence. So more and more of our life is governed by software, impersonal software. Nobody knows who has created, who has acted, who has added something, which subroutine is used here and there. And this software regulates our lives. So what are our safety concerns there? Can they be safe by design? Is a patchwork of software really a product that you can rely on? Or should we see it as a building where the structural materials and the electricity system and the heating system and the ventilation come and link with each other together in a convenient habitat environment? How can we convey these progresses we have achieved in nano in that very fast moving part? I think I'm approaching the 30 minutes limit. So the last couple of minutes, I would like to say a word about the school itself. As I said earlier, the most enjoyable part of it was the human. Enjoying Venice and the friends and seeing it there, and having this satisfaction of doing something for the young researchers, those that will come after us, and hopefully will be better now. Surely they will be better than us. That's how humans progress. So surely they're going to be better than us. And so this human element has been the most important, the most enjoyable. It's also the biggest part of the capital. I mean, the possibility to call around a friend that you have met and kept contacts with over the years, and then collaborate for the solution of a problem or something, is a great, great asset. And if we extend it at least to the United States, but also to a lot of other countries, that I don't mention them all because I'm sure I will forget another. So the school has played a very big role there. Also the cross-project cooperation. So all these projects coming together and evolving, one giving to the next. That's a great asset. So I think we all need to go now to the presenter chat, and since we cannot upload the people that have been involved in the school, again, I will not give a name, because if I give one, then I need to give another, I don't know, 100. I'm sure I'll forget someone. So we go to the presenter chat and type there, great, thank you, Venice School, or something similar. And with this, I would like to close and thank you and wish you all the best for this this year's Venice Nanosafety School. Thank you very much.
For this very interesting talk, sharing the history of nanosafety research in Europe from your point of view. We would like to remind our attendees here that they can pose their questions in the live Q&A box, which you can see at the right-hand side of your platform. And we would now like to open the discussion part. Yes, we have actually the first question here. So, hi, Dr. Georgios, thanks. I just want to know your personal opinion. What are your thoughts regarding the future of nanosafety research and the collaboration among interest stakeholders, researchers, decision makers, etc.?
Well, I don't, as I'm not in the EU anymore, I cannot follow what is happening. My anticipation is that the launching phase of the nanosafety research is practically completed. So from now on, I think that nanosafety has grown up, has achieved a basis for development and can be integral part of any new development. So any project that aims at establishing some use of nanomaterials or in nanomedicine or in food can make use of and further progress, of course, the testing methods, the characterization methods, you name it, that have already been established. So I see the future more in the integration of nanosafety effort, in the all-over effort, than continuing it as a little protected environment somewhere, like you do with a baby or the children's school. You create a little bit protective environment. Now nanosafety has grown up, so it can become an integral task, if you like, in every nanomaterial research project. And then, of course, I said it earlier, teach the others. So scientists that have grown up in this domain and have seen what has been done, they can go and launch new actions in larger than nano domains.
Thank you very much, Georgios, for this question. I can see that our audience is still a little bit probably shy or not so used to use the platform, because this is the only question that we got so far. On the other hand, we received some thank you notes on the discussion in the discussion forum. So our audience is thanking you for your great presentation and giving such a good history of the nanosafety research. So can I please invite again our audience to start asking some questions? We have Georgios devoted his free time here to come and share his knowledge and his prospects for the future with us. So yes, we received a couple of thanks again in the discussion forum. So again, just to give you a little bit of to lead you to the proper place, please post your comments and questions in the live Q&A button, which is on top of the discussion forum button, so we can read and ask your questions to the speakers. And now we have received another question from Dimitar Prodanov. How do you see the safety of active materials?
We're still struggling with the passive. It's a very difficult domain, but it is time that we work with that. The first part that we need to address is to actually see what are the elements of the grain that concern us. So, in other words, when we say size, what are we talking about? Is that the surface size, or is that the mass, or is that something else? So by breaking down the knowledge we have from the passive particles and understanding their mechanisms of action, then we can extrapolate. The things, of course, get very, very difficult as we are in the interface between physics and bio and chemistry, of course, but chemistry we can take under the physics. So we are in the interface, and these the scientific progresses, they are not that much. The integration of the two fields has not progressed that much. It progresses, but not sufficient, I think, for addressing the active particles in a safe by design approach. But learning the mechanism can be of great help. Now, once you control the activity in the sense that the particle, the material changes behavior when it changes environment. That means that there are layers of the materials that are added or go away as the environment changes. If you know the mechanisms with which these physics bio operate, then you can mark some progress. In other words, I don't think we are very much in progress in this domain.
Very much for this answer, and we have another question. Okay, this is the same one that I just asked. My helpers posted it here, but I see that we have a question from the discussion forum. How do you see future developments affecting the safety of advanced materials in addition to nanomaterials of sometimes not known safety-related properties?
Oh, sorry, I thought it was written and my attention was distracted because I don't see it written. Can you repeat it, please?
Yes. How do you see future developments affecting the safety of advanced materials in addition to nanomaterials of sometimes not known safety-related properties?
I try to think which advanced materials we are talking about, and I cannot really bring anything to my mind that other than chemicals, that would raise safety concerns that require specific attention. Advanced materials. I think the most in that category, advanced materials, the most important element is the non-recyclability of it. That means they just need to be buried somewhere or burned if they can be burned. And the general material flow on this planet reaches an impasse. I mean, in the previous century, the first half of it, or maybe the first 2/3 of it, we didn't really thought that would be a problem, the materials flow, elements that go into the atmosphere and on the water and the soil. So we just did not pay attention. And now we see more and more material, composite material, that are just used. They are there 15, 20 years in use and then over, just dump them somewhere. So the environment problem is a serious concern. And then we see other, I mean, recently in Belgium, we have these 3M chemicals, the PFOS, which until 20 years ago they were not considered as harmful, but now they are. So they are regulated, and of course now we have big pieces of soil that need recuperation and clean up. So as the safety targets progress, non-biodegradable material or non-degradable material in any sense, it should be avoided. The same is for the microplastics. So, okay, we said little by little these plastics will be broken with ultraviolet and bioprocesses and so on, but they are just far too big quantities. So the natural processes do not suffice to control the problem. So to come back, I think that these advanced materials will enter into this more generic materials flow on this planet problematic.
Thank you, Georgios. Actually, our participants have been very active now, and we have a number of questions. So it's not in the order in which they were asked, but I think this is something that is changing a little bit the topic. You mentioned that during the pandemic, communication between researchers, policymakers, the media, and public was not optimal. What steps do you think we should take to improve the dissemination of important scientific research to people outside the scientific community?
Yeah, yes, that was a very crucial thing. So in the beginning, I mean, more than a year, last March until June, you could see that everybody was frozen from the public. They said what is happening to us and so on. They were open to all information, and then the scientists, they had their first stage. They came forward informing everyone what is an infectious disease and how it progresses and so on and so on. So we have had the first phase, the first wave. And when the first wave was under control, that happened then again in the summer afterwards, September, October, then started voices, what is this, give our lives back and so on, and what is this? And then there was the time of discredit of all this set up. So we've seen that the measures for the second wave were largely delayed, precisely because of that. And then they have said large parts of the civil society, be it Twitter or here or there, Facebook, turning against the experts. So the popularity of the experts, in spite of them saying the correct thing in the second wave, or most of them saying the correct thing in the second wave, then this diminished. So fortunately, we have the governments that they set up crisis centers, and they created official information, and And somehow the situation came under control. We have had death threats to certain scientists. I mean, terrible things happening. So in spite of all the efforts from the official government, so this confirms what was said, that the best plan does not survive the first battle. So that's it. So we need to be prepared for that. And if you take particular elements like use of face mask, do we need to use them, or we don't have, and all they are in China made, and everybody panicking, and so on and so on. And now recently, last week, was about the transport, the maritime transport containers.
Does that look
disaster, okay? A disaster. Only 3 companies produce them. They are all in China. What are we going to do? I mean, these are not serious things. We need to be proactive and take measures beforehand. And in spite of all that was done for the pandemic, still we have had chaotic situations quite often this 1.5 years that has passed.
Thank you very much, Georgios. We have still a number of questions which are posted to you, but since we have to move with the agenda and Steffi is already online, I would like to kindly ask you either to try to give them some quick replies via the discussion forum, or maybe to bring this discussion in. And again, your presence at this virtual edition of the school, and we'll be really happy to have you again, and actually to meet you, all of you, back in Venice, hopefully next year, when everything is going to be back to normal. And now I would like to give the floor to Steffi Friedrichs from Ecumenist, who is going to talk to us about the concepts of sustainable nanofabrication.
Hello, everyone. Thanks to the organizers for having me here, and for the technical team for your patience in trying to patch me in here. We had some technical difficulties with all of the right accessories connecting. Many thanks to George for an interesting discussion and for answering many questions to bridge my 10 minutes of technical details. And I know you could have gone on for a long time. Let me try to give you a little bit about an introduction of concepts of sustainable nanofabrication. I will try to be brief. I know we are running 10 minutes late. I will try to get you out at your lunch break. The reason why I'm talking to you about this is because we are running a project which is called the NanoFabNet Hub, or that is in fact the result which we want to get out. We are calling this project NanoFabNet. It is a project in sustainable industrial scale nanofabrication, and specifically to build a network in which sustainable nanofabrication can happen. So what we are thinking of is that nanofabrication is very much the next step. It's the complex way of doing nanotechnology. It's the advanced way of connecting nanotechnology to the very high-tech applications that are created in the clean rooms. So it is very much the next generation, if you want, of nanotechnology, including its very advanced materials. And we want to do that sustainably. And there is the feel that there is not really an area in which experts of sustainability can collaborate with experts from nanofabrication. And that is why we want to build this platform for them. This is essentially our view of what we want to have at the end of this project. This is a 2.5-year funded project under the Horizon 2020 framework. And this is what we want to achieve in the end. We want to give the community a strong one-stop shop for sustainable nanofabrication. We want to create an international hub where everybody can link in from everywhere. We have a specific area in which we want to foster EU collaborations and international collaborations, corporations, and we want to specifically support the community with sustainable nanofabrication guidance and services. We want to create a sharing of infrastructures, knowledge and skills, and we want to underline the whole thing with technology validation, harmonization and standardization, because we eventually want to bring in the industrial community as well. So this should be the one global community where sustainable nanofabrication happens. We started off last year in March by asking the community, oops, I have a hang up, by asking the community itself. So we had a first stakeholder meeting with a very good participation of people, although it was literally the day when the COVID-19 pandemic unfolded in Brussels and everything was shut down from one day to the next. We had many people joining us online. We had a very, very lively audience, and we asked the people, what scientific disciplines do you associate with the term nanofabrication? And people came up with a whole range of ideas. Chemistry was very much at the heart of it, and that goes with our perception of what nanomaterials and nanotechnology is largely about. It was largely born out of chemistry, but there is also a large aspect of engineering in there. And that is really the bit where we are now connecting it and taking it to the next level of really high-tech engineering that is done in the clean room, which is traditionally what a fabrication is about. And you can see that many people are already talking about environmental engineering here. And we believe that this is going to be the biggest area of overlap regarding our area of collaboration for sustainability and nanotechnology. So we then asked them, what do we associate with the term with the term sustainability? And in here you would have, I'm sure we would all come up with the same set of ideas. You have a lot of environmental concepts in there, a lot of circular economy concepts, eco-friendly, renewable, acceptance, and all of that is something that people believe should be important under the term sustainability. And if you then ask the people who we had invited to the workshop to tell us what they believed we should define as criteria for sustainable nanofabrication, since we are creating an environment of collaboration in sustainable nanofabrication for them, they combined that to an area where they said the definition of sustainable nanofabrication should be concerned a lot with safety, with waste, with energy consumption, but also with human health. And that is what we largely understand as a safety aspect. And for nanotechnology, we have been working on that safety aspect for a long time, including at the Venice Summer School and including over the past years, where we have been providing training in what we have the previous year and generally found out about safety aspects. So safety is a part of sustainability, but it's not all of sustainability. It means there is a lot more to sustainability that is not covered with safety. And a lot of that has to do with energy footprints, with general carbon footprints. And these are the ideas that people have when we ask them what should we do in order to create an area of sustainable nanofabrication for you in which you can collaborate. The one thing that you have to keep in mind, though, is that the people we had invited to this workshop, to this first nanofabnet development workshop, were very much people who we knew from the nanotechnology crowd beforehand. So these were people who were nanotechnology experts, and they were people who were working with and have been very familiar with nanotechnology and specifically the safety of nanotechnology. So it is easy to understand why safety should play a big role for them, but also why they are saying when we look at sustainability, we are looking over and beyond safety, and we're looking at what the nanotechnology can actually do for sustainability itself. So we're not only looking at nanotech posing new challenges to safety aspects, but we are looking at nanotechnology being a solution of making the next technology that is created more sustainable and less energy intensive, with a smaller carbon footprint. So sustainability, sustainable nanofabrication is very much an area in which nanotechnology and nanofabrication in particular provides a solution to future sustainability. And that is something that we wanted to work out in particular, because we want to ideally bring people together in our NanoFabNet hub that have not previously worked with each other, because we believe that there is a lot more to be known about how sustainability can be achieved than we can necessarily create out of the need of always having to apply nanotechnology. So what we wanted to do is we wanted to bring two entire disciplines together. And in order to find out where this is actually happening, both in terms of concepts and who is doing this research, we had this idea that we probably need to first of all a number of keywords that define nanofabrication, nanomanufacturing, and nanomaterials. And you can see here what we have done. This is a part of our proposal that we had submitted at the time. We have already come up with some ideas of how the areas of nanofabrication probably overlap with what we understand as nanomanufacturing, and that then overlaps with nanomaterials. This is a very crude way of showing this. One word of warning: depending on where you are, you may find the words nanomanufacturing and nanofabrication exchanged with each other, because the US tends to call it nanomanufacturing, whereas we are calling it nanofabrication. In Europe, manufacturing has a slightly different connotation from purely being the same as fabrication, but you quite often find these two terms interchanged depending on the cultural and industrial background. And the other area we're obviously looking at is the area of general technology sustainability. And we defined a few keywords for that one to begin with. And we defined how it probably overlaps with circular economy ideas and with concepts of eco-conceptualization. So you can see that the area of resource efficiency and life cycle assessment is pretty much one that is part of technology sustainability, but it also plays an important part in circular economy and in eco concepts as well. So this is what we wanted to actually understand, is how on a day-to-day basis do these areas actually overlap already. So what we did there is we did a literature analysis. We basically looked at the literature of the last 20, 30 years. We started in 1980, so 40 years pretty much, but we found out that the literature evidence of any papers in nanoscience and nanotechnology was very scarce, and it doesn't seem to have, for the moment, we are not entirely done with it, it doesn't seem to have much statistical relevance. So what I'm showing you here is a snapshot of nanoscience and nanosustainability, the entire map of science, with those two disciplines taken out and seen how they relate to each other. So if we only look at publications in journals that are classified as nanoscience or nanotechnology journals or sustainability journals, and we put them together and do a keyword search, we find that these two disciplines together form an area which describes a lot on nanoparticles, catalysts, carbon, sensors. So all of this is the technology area in which nanotechnology is settled, and together with what we understand nanomaterials research is covering, which is the strength and microstructure. That is very much an area which we can probably understand is the nanotechnology area of the time. And Sustainability is very much defined as in terms of water, but also in terms of health sustainability. It talks a lot about forest and patients and rivers. So this is environmental health and concepts that need to be considered when one talks about environmental health, but also human health concept that that consider the patient as such. So if we break this down and we actually look at which part is largely nanotechnology carried in this general field of nanoscience, technology, and sustainability, and which part is largely sustainability carried, we can actually see that our guess was pretty good. We find here that the publications that came out of nanotechnology journals are very much covering an area in which the nanoparticle plays a big role, sensors, devices, and the microstructure of materials plays a big role as well. But we can also see here there is an area in the middle where nanotechnology has already, through its publications, focused a lot on water, nitrogen, pathways of distribution, and on therapy as well, meaning that these are probably areas into which nanotechnology is branching in terms of application. If we do the opposite now and we look where sustainability is happening, we find that sustainability is indeed largely an area here on the left. All centered around the actual term sustainability, but it takes a lot of focus into patients, forests, and rivers. So these concepts I spoke about earlier, these are the general sustainability concepts. And what we can see now is that this area in the middle is pretty much the area where nanotechnology and sustainability overlap. So while sustainability is on the far right, also covers a lot about nanoparticles, composites, mechanical properties, and electrocatalysts, we do know that this is the area that is strongly supported by nanotechnology. So in this area that is currently outlined by green words, by these green bubbles whose size indicate how often the keyword was used in these 1.6 million publications that we've been analyzing. The green area is largely the nanotechnology area, plus covered by sustainability. The red area on the left is largely one that only sustainability covers. And the area in the middle is one that both of them are covering to some extent, but very little in terms of nanotechnology. And what we believe what we need to do is we need to bring people together in this middle area. We need to make sure that whatever we are creating in our platform entices people to share more knowledge about how core sustainability aspects can be joined and collaborated with in terms of R&D with core nanotechnology and nanofabrication aspects. And the foundation for that is pretty much laid, but we have to do more in order to really entice these two communities to come together. So the next step, and I can't show you that unfortunately, is that we are going to identify the core experts behind these publications, and we are alerting them to the fact that here is an area in which both nanofabrication and sustainability can really work together well. There is an area where expertise is needed, where R&D is needed, and we would like to bring people together on this nanofabrication platform and sustainability people, so sustainable in nanofabrication. And just as an outlook, if you would like to find out a little bit more about it, the project is still running until August next year, and we are currently working on a number of publications. So the first one that we made available is the one that talks about concepts and disciplines of sustainability in nanotechnology and nanofabrication. This is very much a publication which looks from what you saw at the beginning of my presentation, which is the interpretation of those people who are already doing nanotechnology, and they largely focus on how safe is nanotechnology, how sustainable is nanotechnology. They largely focus on nanotechnology itself and the sustainability issues within it. Whereas what eventually we want to do is we want to show and showcase more of nanotechnology being a solution for future sustainability. So this is your first step in a series of publications. You can find it on our website, which I will show you at the end. And oops, there we are already. I thought there was another slide. We also did a, I can probably show you that. I think we have a little bit more time. This is the slide that I was referring to just now. We did a brief investigation of where industry considered sustainable nanofabrication to happen for it. And here you can see again the large interpretation. We spoke to a number of startup companies and a number of industrial companies. We try to cover every one of the different disciplines and market sectors that nanotechnology is going into. So all the way from environment, where nanotechnology provides a solution through water treatment and air filters, to agricultural applications through soil additives, for example, food, medical, and going all the way to very high-tech optical and semiconductor devices here at the bottom of the screen. And it all comes out of the idea of designing materials from their chemical composition and structure in a way that they become functional for these different applications. And in the end, of course, for some of these things, you have a direct link to the consumers, as you would have for medical and food and cosmetic care, cosmetics and care. For other things, you would need to go through a number of different applications, which are shown here as a dotted line. So you would not necessarily come in contact with the nanomaterial. There is a long value chain which uses the raw material, puts it in an application, puts it in another application, goes from one interim material to another, or goes through a number of processing steps in the device itself, and eventually ends up with the consumer. So the issues that of sustainability, and specifically the issues of safety within the concept of sustainability, are very different in every one of these applications. They're obviously very different for the areas that are currently indicated through a dotted line here, because you're so far away from the nanoparticle itself. But you do know also through current developments that we are in direct contact with some of the nanoparticles for some medical applications. So there is a much shorter way from the chemical composition of a nanomaterial to the consumer in pharmaceuticals, for example, and also in food. So all of this has been taken into consideration, and this is what we got as a response when the industry told us where they see the largest impact for sustainability in their area of expertise of doing nanotechnology, or specifically nanofabrication. So these are the things we're currently working on, and I did indeed, I'm sorry, not give you the website here, but I would be very happy to link you to that as I make my presentation available to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Steffi, for this great presentation of the initiatives from NanoFabNet. And again, now I would like to invite our audience to post questions to Steffi and her talk. For the moment, I think people are probably a little bit tired already, or again, probably having some issues of finding how to pose their questions, but please be active and make the best use of our presenters here, so you can ask the precise questions. And soon, actually, we'll have our first coffee break, so you'll be a little bit more refreshed afterwards. I invite you again to post some questions. Okay, and also we have seen that Steffi has posted the website address that she wanted to share with you, so you can also have a look into that. Okay. Steffi, would you like to share something else with our audience while they probably are typing something in the chat so we can have a look later into that? Or maybe people are already a little bit tired and want to take their first coffee break a little bit early on?
I'm perfectly happy for people to get their very well-deserved coffee break. These online events tend to be a lot more exhausting than live events, so I'm perfectly happy for people to go and enjoy their coffee.
Yeah.
You have my contact details on screen, and they will also be made available to you through presentations, which I believe will be shared. Yeah.
Yes, they're going to, the recordings are available for people to watch on demand 30 days after the event is over, so people have the chance to see that. Thank you very much again, Steffi, for this presentation. And with this, actually, we would like to put the end of our keynote session and to invite you to have your well-deserved coffee break, but also make sure you use the networking hub area, which you can find on the right-hand side of the platform, and you can use in order to set up meetings or have live chats and calls with everyone who is live there, including speakers and other attendees. If you still have some questions, you can still try to post them on the chat or the discussion forums, and we will try to get them answered by the speaker whenever possible. Thank you very much for attending, and we will see each other again at 3:30 Standard European Time for an introduction to nanomedicine, in which Bengt Fadel is going to give us a 10-year perspective on the field. Thank you very much, and see you soon.